Shall we start? Yes, ma'am. Welcome everyone. Today's second session is Advanced Object-Oriented Concepts in Kotlin. With the highest level of esteem, let me introduce the resource person of this session, Dr. K. Ganesh Kumar sir, Professor, Department of Information Technology. He has completed his undergraduate in B.Tech Information Technology at Vedala College of Engineering and Technology, Dindal, and postgraduate in ME Computer Science and Engineering at KSR College of Engineering, Tiruchengodu. He has obtained his doctorate at Anna University, Chennai, and he has around 12 plus years of experience. Moreover, he has organized 3 workshops, presented papers in 2 conferences, and his articles have been published in 8 journals. In addition, he has received copyrights for probing DDoS vulnerability by employing Z-test-based statistical analysis of abrupt network traffic. He has also filed a patent. Today, with much honor, I invite you to be the resource person for this ATL-sponsored FDP, sir. I request you to take up the session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Very good morning to one and all present here. So thank you for the introduction and hope you are all fine and doing good. Due to this pandemic situation, we are forced to learn or upgrade our knowledge through online. So I thank the ATL for providing this opportunity and sanctioning this FDP for our college. And on behalf of my department and my own behalf, I thank the management and AICTE ATL for giving this opportunity. So in the previous session, you are aware of what are the basic concepts that are all available in the object-oriented programming. Since object-oriented programming is a known terminology for all the faculties, and the basic object and its behaviors are very well aware of all the peoples. So here we are going to see the advanced concept of what are the object-oriented programmings available and how it helps us to improve the development with the help of the Kotlin programming languages. Just a minute, I will share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in the previous session, you are aware of what are the classes, objects, constructors, and the various types of constructors, and how these constructors are implemented with the help of Kotlin programming language. So I want to refer those things to you all. So here, class, objects, inheritance, and polymorphism, dynamic binding, and message passing are the basic OOPS concepts that we are all aware of. So right from the basic programming languages like C, C++, and Java. So here we are working with advanced OOPS concepts. So it is completely object oriented because it's fully based on the objects and its behaviors only. So here comes the abstract class. So the concepts behind the object-oriented programming are same for all the languages unless until the syntax and semantics were.
Sorry for
syntax,
the interruption.
Yes, yes.
Sir, आपकी slides move नहीं हो रही हैं. Your slides are not moving.
Yes.
Your slides are not moving, sir. Only first slide is visible.
Ma'am, is it visible now?
Not.
Ganesh sir, you show the start presentation, sir. You are in this PowerPoint itself.
Is it
now,
okay?
Sir. Yes, sir.
No.
Thank you. Sir.
Okay. Okay.
Sir, start with the slideshow, sir.
Yes, I had started like that only, but they said my slide is not visible. Ma'am, is it okay?
Your screen is visible, sir. You are not running that slideshow, sir.
Sir, click
Just-
on the slideshow menu.
So I hope there is a technical issues in Ganesh system. So kindly wait.
Is my screen visible now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sorry for the inconvenience.
It's okay, sir.
So in this session, we are going to see the advanced OOPS concepts, like what are the basic concepts you had dealt in the previous session, and hereafter we are going to see what are the advanced concepts like abstract class, and what are the ways in which the abstract class can be created and defined and accessed, followed by the very much important concept called inheritance. So in Java, we are having various types of inheritance, but the Java failed to support multiple inheritance. So here the multiple inheritance is implemented using the terminology called interface. So we are going to see what's the interface and how the interface and the abstract class are working together to make this programming language into a easier one. So first comes abstract class. An abstract class allows to create functionality that subclasses can implement or override. So here a class can make it as abstract, and we can create what are the variables and functions we are going to use in our program. No need of defining that particular functionalities in the abstract class itself, because the abstract class defines what are the basic syntax and what are the types of variables we are going to use. So this abstract variable or abstract method can be defined in the derived class as they wish. So here the abstract number function does not have a body and it must be implemented in the derived classes. So the derived class or subclass make use of the abstract class created in the base class, and these abstract class are defined as they wish. So the members, that is the properties and methods of abstract class, are non-abstract unless you explicitly use abstract keyword. So inside the abstract class, if we want to make a variable or a method to be an abstract, means we have to specify it as explicitly abstract keyword. So like here, so here in this example, the class person is declared as abstract. In that abstract class, we are having the initialization parameter, that is, which is equal to as a constructor. In that, we are using a name parameter, that name parameter, and then display the SSN parameter. And here we are using a function called display job that is declared as abstract. So what's the purpose of abstract here? Means we have to declare what are the various properties and various methods that we are going to use in the derived class. And in the class teacher, that is in the derived class, we are override the abstract function, that is display job, declared in the base class. So while running this, just a minute, while running this program, we will receive the output like we have created the object for the class teacher, and we have passed the argument Jack Smith as a person name, that is string. So followed by we are sending the argument I am as a max teacher for the description string, and display SSN means we are sending the SSN number as integer to that particular class object. So on passing these three parameters, we will receive the output like my name is Jack Smith and I am a max teacher and my SSN is 23123. So here the function is, if a display SSN has the parameter integer and the display job has the parameter string for passing the string variables and the integer variables as an argument to that function. So next one, Kotlin interface. So as I said earlier, the interface are similar as we already read in Java. So for achieving the multiple inheritance, we are supposed to use the interface concept in Java. Similarly, here the Kotlin interface are used for the same. The interface have static variables and methods without the body. We can have interfaces with functions that can contain also a body. So here the abstract class in Kotlin are similar to as interface with one important difference. So here in abstract class, we have to specify the property or the method or the variable declared inside the abstract class to be an abstract or not. Whereas in interface, without explicitly defining, all the variables and all the methods are acted as an abstract value. So here the example and the syntax for the interface. So one basic thing, just keep it in mind. So all the concepts and the parameters we are discussing, like the OOPS concept or whatever the concept we are studying, the concept is same for all the programming language. The only difference is the syntax and the steps we are used for implementing the program. So similarly in Java also, the concept is same. The only thing is the syntax and the format we are using for implementation. Because in advanced concepts, nowadays we are moving towards the object-oriented programming and the open source tools for implementing those languages. So here, what's the main difference between Java and Kotlin programming is, in Java we have to use that terminator for specifying the end of the statement, whereas in Kotlin programming no need of the terminator, because we can that particular Kotlin programming compiler itself, it decides that this will be the end of the statement, and it would followed by the space, white space we are giving. So here the interface, my interface is the basic interface we are defining with a variable test of parameter string and two abstract, I mean one single abstract method and another one is non-abstract method. Since why it is non-abstract method means we are defining the hello method here, whereas function foo method is an abstract because we didn't have the definition of that particular method. So here a simple example which defines how this interface will work. So here we are having abstract property and abstract method, and the abstract method with default implementation value, that is we are giving the definition there itself. Here why we are using the override in the previous session itself, you have seen that what's the use of override, why we are using override in the Kotlin programming as well as in the interface. So the override helps to override the definitions given in the base classes, and it will pass the derived class parameters to the base class methods and then variables. So here comes the main difference between the abstract and interface. So here interface can have declaration of abstract method and implementation. We can extend only one class and implement multiple interfaces. So the main difference is the interface cannot store data. They can have properties, but these needs to be an abstract. As I said earlier, in abstract class, we have to specify the values, I mean variables and the methods as abstract, whereas in interface, these variables and methods are abstract by default. So here the accessor implementation, what's the accessor implementation is we are trying to access the interface value that we have declared in our program. Here value prop that is declared as integer, if we are given this as value prop integer or the value prop integer equal to 23, this is invalid because we are directly initializing or we are directly trying to initialize the abstract value declared inside the interface. By not doing so, we are using another function to assign the value to the particular variable. So here the second comes the class interface, implement my interface. Here we have created object for the interface, and with the help of the object we can access the variable declared inside the interface. So this slide shows the exact difference between the interface and then abstract class interface. So here in the interface we are directly declaring the variable and assigning the value to the variable with the help of a function, whereas in interface we are directly initializing the variable. So next one, implementing two or more interfaces in a class. So we can have n number of interfaces in our class, and we can implement those classes in those interfaces in our classes. So in interface A we can have a function called call me. Inside that we are giving print statement to identify whether this particular function will get executed or not. We are giving a statement called interface from interface A, and again we have declared another interface, interface B, with the function name call me to. So here we are given a phrase call from interface B. So these two interfaces are implemented in the class child, and in the main function we have created the object for the class, and with the help of the object created we are calling the functions declared in interface A and B. So probably this will be the output received from this program. So here both the interfaces can be called with the help of the object created for the class. So what happens if these two interfaces can have the same function name, same return type, and then same parameter passing. So what the system will do if the similar condition exists or similar name exists. So here is the output, or here is the result. Here in first slide, first column, both the interfaces have the function call me, and both the interfaces are implemented in the class child. So if you try to create an object for the class child, and with the help of that object, if you are trying to call the function declared inside that particular interface means, so there will be an error because the compiler itself is not sure which call me function we are trying to access. So in order to overcome this issue, so we are giving the override function, and we are using the keyword super keyword. So here in the second column we are giving the same name, and we are using the keyword called override. So in that override, what will be the function, what will the statement given inside means, if you are calling the function means it will execute whether it will try to call the super class, I mean interface A or interface B with the help of the super keyword. So here is the output, same output we are receiving with the help of the object, and we are calling the function declared inside the interface. So next comes nested class. So if a class is available in a programming language means we can definitely nested the class, or we can create a class within another class. So similarly, as available in other programming language, here also it is possible to create a class inside the other class. So in Kotlin, nested class is by default static. So its data member and member function can be accessed without creating an object of a class. So till now we have seen that if we want to access a variable or a method declared inside a class, we want to create an object for that particular class, and with the help of that object, we are accessing the parameters and the functions declared inside. Whereas in Kotlin nested class, so it is acted as a default class. So we no need of creating an object for accessing the variables and parameters declared inside it. So nested class cannot access the data member of outer classes. So we will see it in the next slide. So here comes nested class example. So in class outer, we are using a variable A with value outside nested class, and we are declaring another class inside that outer class called nested, and there we are declared value B. In that we are giving inside nested class, and then we have defined a function called call me function from inside nested class. So in the main function, we are accessing the member of a nested class by creating object of the nested class. Outer dot nested b dot nested of dot b. So here we have created the object for the nested class, and we have accessed the variable declared inside it. Similarly, with the help of the object created for the base class, we can access both the statements given inside the class. So here value nested is equal to outer dot nested of. So outer is the object created, and with the help of that outer class dot nested, we are accessing the call me function declared inside the nested class. So here are all the important points to remember. It is possible to make interface with nesting. All combinations of classes and interfaces are possible. That is, we can have classes inside the interface, or interface inside the classes, or we can have classes inside another classes.
Yeah. मुझे
Yes.
उनको बोला थोड़ी देर में हम क्या FDP चल रहा है, FDP चल रहा है.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Isham,
Yes.
kindly mute your machine.
Ma'am, shall I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we can nested class within an interface, or interface within an interface. We can have these three combinations with the help of interface and classes. So as I said earlier, an inside function do not have the access to the outer class instance. Here is the example. Here class outer consists of the variable foo with value outside nested class, and I had used the class nested inside the outer class to access the variable declared inside the outer class with the help of the function. Because this is not possible in Kotlin, because nested class in Kotlin do not have the access to the outer class instance, whereas outer class will access the inside class instance. So here, if you want to make that particular thing into existence, means we have to specify that this class will be the outer class, and the nested class even declared inside will be the inner class with the help of the inner keyword. Here, the nested class marked as inner can access the member of its outer class. So if you want to have the access, not only the outer class always access the variables of the inside class, in some instance, that inside declared class also wants to have the access to the variables or methods declared in the outer class. So in order to achieve that, we are using the keyword called inner keyword in order to achieve that access of base class variables and then methods. So inner class carry a reference to an object of an outer class. Here class outer, private value integer equal to 1, inner class inner. So if you are given this, means with the help of the inner keyword we are accessing the variable declared inside the outer class, right? Here the variable is accessed by the function declared inside the inner class, and the value 1 will be assigned to the variable demo. So here comes the example. So class outer, value A is equal to outside nested class, inner class inner. Inner is the keyword, and then again the class is the keyword, and inner is the class name which we are going to nested inside the outer class. We have used a function called callMe. So we have created an object for outer class, and with the help of the outer class object we are using the inner class methods also. So similarly, if you want to access the outer class from the inner class, means we can create an object and we can access with the help of the inner keyword specified while defining the inner class. So next comes data class. So in previous sections we have seen what's in abstract class and an interface. Here this is a new terminology called data class. So what's in the data class means, here it is used to hold the data we have used during the execution process. In such classes, some standard functionality and utility functions are often derived from the data. These data are called data classes and are marked with the data. So what's in data means the values which we are using for the processing of the information in our programming language are called data. So these data are to be stored, and with the help of those data we are performing some functions, or the compiler performing some functions automatically with the help of the given functions called equals, hash code, toString and copy. I think you have already seen these 4 functions. So here what are the main thing which we are going to deal with? Data classes are given in the next slide. So the primary constructor needs to have at least one parameter, and all primary constructors need to be marked as value. What's the difference between VAL and VAR? VAL is read only and VAR is read write variable. So next, the data classes cannot be abstract, open, sealed or inner. The data class may extend other classes or implement interfaces. Here the data class is responsible for storing the data which be used for execution, and the data received from the statements we had executed in the methods also. So here is the example for data object. So we have seen already, while creating an object for a class, the variables declared inside are allotted memory, and that particular object have the total memory of the variables declared inside a particular class. So for example, here we are using two variables, that is name and then age. So the name is a string variable and then age is an integer variable. So the value Jack created for, the object Jack created for the particular class can hold the total of the memory that is allocated to the name and age. Here the data object is Jack. That particular data object consists of the name and age for a single record. We can create a number of objects for a class. So each object of a particular class can have or can hold the data which is assigned to that particular value. Here the Jack consists of the name and 29 is the age. Here we can easily extract the data that is stored with the help of the object created for that particular class. So similarly, we can in other programming languages also, if you try to access the object name, or if you want to see the memory allocated to that particular object created for a class, means the total memory allocated to the variable is equal to the number of parameters that we have declared and the type of parameters we have declared inside that particular class. For example, if we are using 3 integer variable and 1 character, means 3 integer variable 3 into 2 6 and plus 1 character is 1. That is totally 7 bytes of memory will be allocated to the object that we have created for that particular class. So we can call it as an instance of the class also. Here the instance indicates a single individual record that we are using for storing the data. Here we can call the normal object as data object, since it holds the value for the variables declared inside the class. So with the help of these data classes, what are the possible functions we are going to perform? Here first comes toString. This function returns a string of all the parameters defined inside in the data classes. The compiler only uses the properties defined inside the primary constructor for the automatically generated function. It excludes a property that are declared in the class body. So what are the properties given inside the declaration, means it will be considered for the compiler for conversion, and the definitions given in the class body are excluded for the conversion. Here is the example. So here the data class user with 2 parameters, name and age of type string and integer. Here if you are creating object for the class user, means value equal to user of John, 29. U1 to toString means that U1 is the object created for the class user, and that particular U1 consists of both the values name and the age. So we can easily split the data which we have declared in the declaration section. So similarly, we are using the copy function. So copy an object with some changes in some of its properties, keeping all other remains unchanged. So here the copy function is used to identify what are the changes that happened in the system, and the changes alone can be copied to that parameter, and the remaining values will be unchanged. It copies all arguments or members defined in primary constructor. 2 objects can have same primary parameters values and different class body values if defined. So in the declaration of the copy function is given here. Function copies name string this dot age, this dot x, and age equal to this dot y equal to user of x comma y. Similarly, we have seen in the other programming language, like we are accessing the value in the superclass with the help of this keyword, right? So the similar concept is used here. So here the use of copy is demonstrated with the help of an example. So here the data class user, inside the 2 parameters were declared. we have created object u1 for the class user. So using copy function to create an object, we are just created another object u2, and we just use the u1, that is the first object of the class, dot copy, and we have passed the parameter name only to that particular object u2. Here we have two parameters used. One is name and another one is age. We have created one object for class, that is John and 29. If we want to create another object and we want to send the values that we used for the object u1, means we can copy that particular variable, particular parameters to the variable u2. Here we have passed only one parameter and asked the next parameter to receive from the first object. So while printing those statement, we will receive the name is different for u1 and u2, and then age is different for age is same for both the objects. Here the name is different because we have sent the parameters Randy to the with the help of copy function. We are sending the Randy parameters to the variable u2. That u2 gets first value as Randy and second value from the object u1. So the name Randy is given to u2 and the age 29 is get from the first object. Next one, hash code and equals. So here hash code returns the hash code value of the object. Every object can have the hash value, which helps to easily access that particular function. And the equals method returns if two objects have same content. It is similarly working as equal to operator, we have seen already, but it works different for float and double method. We will see how. So here is the point to remember regarding hash code and equals. So whenever it is invoked on the same object more than once, the hash code method must consistently return the same integer, because there will not be any change in the object, because no information used in an equals comparison on the object is modified. There won't be any modification be done. Similarly, we are performing the same operation more than once, means there won't be any change. If two objects are equal according to the equals method, then calling the hash method on each of the two objects must produce the same integer cell. So here is the example. So data class user, name, and then age. So here we have created three objects for the class user. Value, u1 object carries the values of John and then 29 as name and age. We have created another object u2, and we are copying the same value given to the first object u1. So we are specified as u1.copy. Similarly, we have created another object u3, and as we saw in the previous program, we are giving the name only as argument for the third parameter, third object, and the remaining should be derived from the first object, that is u1.copy. So here, and we have performed another function called equals. u1.equals of u2 is equal to true. That is, we are checking whether both the objects are equal and both the hash code values are equal. So as a result, here the hash code for u1 and u2 is same, because u1 and u2 we had given value for the object u1, and u2 is the copy of u1. We had given value u2 is equal to u1.copy. The variables, the values used for the object u1 is copied to the values u2. So the hash code is same for the both the objects u1 and u2. Whereas u3 is different, because we had changed the parameter name, or we are given the parameter name to the object u3. So it gives a different hash code value. Whereas what about the values given to them, we can, with the help of equals method, here u1 is equal to u2, because the same copy is available in both u1 and u2. Whereas in u3 we are sending Amanda as a parameter for name, so it gives a different value. So u1 is not equal to u3. So next one, destructuring declaration in Kotlin. So here the Kotlin provides the programmer a unique way to work with instance of a class, that is in the form of destructuring. What means destructuring means we are rearranging or restructuring the object into a number of variables using the destructuring declaration. A destructuring declaration is the one that creates and initializes multiple variables at once. So we'll see how. So here comes the example. So the data class user, inside that we are using an object u1. Here we had additionally added two single parameters, like in the previous example we have seen only two parameters, that is name and then age. But here we are given an additional parameter value, like we have restructured the already defined parameters. So for that we are using another parameter called the gender. So here we are using the restructuring format to add some more information with the help of additional parameters to the existing one. We are using the same name and age in the existing one, and we are adding another additional parameter gender to the existing class. That is value of name, comma, age, comma, gender is again passed as a parameter to the class object variable u1, and the same is used for printing the values. So destructuring declaration works on the concept of component and component n function. What's the component n function means? We can have n number of parameters used for passing as argument to the objects of the class. So we can add. So suppose we are having 2 or 3 variables we have declared already, and we are using as a parameter for passing it as arguments to the objects. Means we can add more number of parameters by specifying the component position value. That is component value in the sense it indicates the position of the argument or position of the parameter we are using for using that inside in the function and for the object also. I will explain with an example. So here comes. So here we have used 3 parameters like name, age, and the gender. So here component 1 indicates the name, and the component 2 indicates the age, and the component 3 indicates the gender. So here we can easily add n number of parameters, and we can easily split the parameters with the help of the component function. So we can extract the values given for an object with the help of these components, and we can separate each and every component from the object's value. So next one, sealed classes. So here the sealed classes are used when a value can have only one of the types from a limited set. Here the sealed class describes that we can have the parameters, but that parameter will be selected from the given set of parameters list. Here sealed class and interface represent restricted class hierarchies that provides more control over inheritance. So the process of inheriting the data or inheriting the properties from the base class to the derived class is controlled by the class hierarchy and the class interfaces and the sealed classes. So all subclasses of a sealed class are known at compile time. No other subclass may appear after a module with the sealed class is compiled. Once a sealed class is compiled, we cannot add any other module or any other parameters inside the classes, or we cannot inherit any other classes from the base classes. So need to add the modifier sealed. A sealed class cannot be instantiated. That is, we cannot create object for those kind of extractions. Hence are implicitly abstract. So constructors of sealed class are private by default. Normally, in most of the programming languages, the constructors are the default by default private. So all subclass of sealed classes must be declared within the same file, because the inherited properties of the base class will be seen in the derived class, and these derivations must be done within a single file, so that we can easily identify what are the derivations we can have from the base classes to the derived classes. So sealed classes are important in ensuring type safety by restricting the set of types at the compile time only. So here we seen already that a limited number of types only given, and we have to select from the types only. So this will be the main restriction given in the sealed class. So to ensure the type safety. So here the sealed class A, here the class B and the class C are extracting the properties of class A. Here if you want to access the variable A towards A, means it shows the compile error, because class A cannot be instantiated. So companion object. So to write a method or any property of class that can be called without using instance of a class, we can have the companion object. That is, without creating an object for a particular class, we can access the methods and the variables declared inside the particular class. So how it will be done means with the help of the companion object. Here the first column shows the normal method, and second column shows the companion method. In first column, inside the class person, a method called call me is defined, and we can create object for that particular class person, and we can call the call me function. So whereas by declaring a companion object by making object declaration with companion keyword, call me method can be accessed using the class name, that is the person, without creating an object for that particular class. With the help of class name itself, we can easily call the methods inside the class. So that will be given in the second column. Here person, class person, and then companion object test. So in that we are defining a function called call me. So in that main, with the help of the class name, we can easily or directly access the methods given inside that particular class without creating the object for that particular class. So this is the main advantage of using companion object. So instead of creating a normal object in the main program, we are creating a companion object that is the two in the class itself, and then with the help of that companion object, we are accessing the methods declared inside the class. So the ability, next one, extension function. What's the extension function means? We already seen that we can add some of the features to the already existing parameters. Like we can add some more parameters to the existing functions, or we can have some of the additional features for that existing functions also. Here, the ability to add more functionality to the existing class without inheriting them. This is achieved through a feature known as extension. So when a function is added to an existing class, it is known as extension class. Here is the syntax: function class name dot method name. So here comes the example. Here is a sample extension function. So function string dot remove first last character. So here this function helps to remove the first letter and the first character and the last character of the given string. So we don't have any such functions that already existing in default or in the class library. Here we are adding some additional extension to the string class for adding or for removing the first and last characters in the given string. So here is the example. So remove first last characters. This is a substring of 1, this dot length -1. Here we are removing the first character and the last character of the given string. Here we are getting the string as input, hello everyone, with the help of my string value. Then we are creating that object for the particular class, and we have called using the extension function remove first last character. As a result, we are, and our given string is hello everyone. After applying the remove first and last character method, it will be displayed in as ELLOEREYON. So next one, extended library class. So here the extension function defined for integer type, that is, if we can have that extension function for already existing existing functions. Here we are using for integer type. Here in the previous one we had seen for a string type for removing the first and last characters, and this program indicates the extension function for the integer data type. So that's it. So we can have these code will be executed. Just a minute. I'll go to the first slide and we will come from, yeah. So I will stop my screen sharing and I will go move on to the editor screen. Yes, my screen is visible. Hello.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. So in the first example, we are defining abstract class. So here we have created the class person as abstract, and we can initialize the variable name and then two methods like display SSN and an abstract method called display job. So here the function override keyword will help to override the method that is declared inside the class person, and with the help of the object created for that particular class, we are accessing the display job method by overriding the function. So next comes the interface. Here in the interface, A and B have functions with different names, so it's easy for the object to differentiate those two functions with the help of the function name, and it will call the two methods differently using the same name. So here, while running this program, we will receive both the methods are called separately, and we can execute it with the help of the same object. So what happens if the function name is same for all the methods declared inside the interface? So here I have renamed this function as call me, as I had used the same name already in the interface. So I had created object for the class child. With the help of object, I have called the method call me. So let me see how it works. Yeah, the class child must override public open function call me, unit defined in A, because it inherits multiple interface methods of it. We can have the same method that will be declared and defined in both the interfaces, like interface A and B, and the class child have inherited or implemented those two interfaces in the class. So the compiler get confused which method to be called for the object created for the child class. Here, if you have, I can have it as call me one means it will execute, right? A single interface can be called from the interface one because the name is different from each other. So in order to overcome this, we are using the concept called override and the super. So override is used to override the declaration given in the base interface, and for differentiating it will be, and for differentiating it will be called so here these are the same we have seen already. Here the difference is override function call me. So here this override will calls or will identifies the object and its category with the help of super keyword, and the super keyword helps to identify which method to be called from the interface with the help of the object. So next one comes nested class. So here is the base class, class outer is the base class, and the class nested is the nested class, that is a class inside another class. In the base class here I have defined a variable called A, that is outside nested class, and in the nested class I had used variable B for next class, and method call me to call this method from the nested class, while creating access member to access the nested class variable, that is B, and the nested class method call me. So see how the compiler will execute. So here the outer dot nested of B is used to access the value given in the nested class and the function given in the nested class. If in this program I have created object for the outer class, the outer class have the provision to access the variables and methods given in the nested class, whereas in the inside the nested class, if the nested class wants to access the variable declared in the outer class, means it's not possible. So we have to use, again just a minute, if we want to use that particular thing, means we want to give it as inner. The same can be modified as inner. Here we are given or specified this class as inner class, so that the compiler identifies that the inner class is the inner class of outer, that is it's present inside the class outer, and it wants to access the variable declared inside the outer class also. So using outer object, outer and outside nested class, using inner object, outside nested class. So here we have created object for outer class, and we can called the function, called the method. Here using inner object, we are called the method. So by specifying the keyword inner in the inner class, nested class, we can allow the inner class to access the variables and methods declared in the outside class also. So next comes data class.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, would you please repeat inner and outer class once again?
Yeah. Okay. So here the class outer is the outer class with the variable A is equal to outside nested class, and then within that outer class I had created another class called class inner with the keyword inner. Here this inner is the keyword and this inner is the class name. So what's the purpose of giving this keyword inner means if this inner class wants to access the variable declared inside the outer class means without the help of inner keyword it's not possible, because this outer keyword doesn't know that this will be the inner class or this request comes from the inner class of the particular outer class. So if we didn't give the inner keyword means the request for accessing the variable declared inside the outer class is not possible. Here we are accessing the variable declared in the outer class with the help of object for outer class as well as inner class. Here the inner class object with the function call me. If you are calling the variable, I mean calling the method call me means it tries to access the variable declared in the outer class. So to access the outer class we are using the inner keyword and we are creating the object for inner keyword and we are accessing the variable declared inside the outer class. Sir, is it okay?
Sir,
Yes.
still little bit confused about these.
Nothing to confuse in it. So if
println and second.
yeah, just a minute, I will explain one by one.
Yes.
This will be
First
the
and
normal
second
one.
println.
Second println, this will be
Yes.
the inner object, right? So we have created two objects for accessing the same method call me. So first println, I have used the outer dot inner dot call me method. So from the hierarchy, I had used the outer class and then again inner class and again access the call me method declared in the inside class. I mean inner class. So in the second println, here the value inner is outer dot inner. So again, I had declared object for outer class only. Here this inner indicates the outer dot inner class. Right, sir? So this inner indicates the object declared for the inner class. So if this inner class wants to access the variable because it goes to the call me method declared inside the inner class, this inner class wants to access the variable declared, that is A, declared in the outer class. So in order to achieve this, so I want the concept behind this is very simple. Both the classes can have the access to each of them, and we can achieve it with the help of accessing. I mean, with the help of creating object for both the classes.
Okay, okay, sir. Now
yes.
it is clear.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So next comes data class. So as I said earlier, data class will be the object we have created for a particular class consists of the variables we have used for or we had used within that particular class. Here the class user consists of the variable name and then age of the data type string and integer. If suppose I want to create an object for this particular class user means that particular user, I mean that particular object created for the class user holds the memory for storing the variable, I mean storing the string variable name and then integer variable age. So irrespective of the value, the default data type value will be assigned to this object. So for example, for considering string means it's 4 and a integer means 2 means these total 6 bytes of memory will be allocated to the object jack of the class user. Here this will be the syntax for creating the object for the class. And here we have specified the data class. Here the data is the keyword for data class, indicating this class is a data class. So we can easily recover what are the variables stored or what are the values we have passed for the data object. This is similar to if we are creating an object for a particular class, means we can that particular class holds a memory of the total memory occupied by the parameters, that is the variables declared inside the particular method or not particular class. So consider a particular class can have any number of variables and any of any data type. If that class, we can create an object for that particular class, mean a single instance of class holds the single instance of the memory of that particular variable declared. So here we have used two variables, that is name and age of type string and integer. Here the Jack, that is the user class, can hold the value of Jack and 29. Here the Jack is the data object created for the class user, and this Jack holds the value name as Jack and the age as 29. Is it okay? So next comes toString. Yes, this, as we discussed already, this toString function returns a string to all of the parameters defined inside the class. It excludes a property that are declared in the class body. Here we have declared the declaration session like a name and the age. This toString helps to identify what are the parameters that we have used in the declaration of that particular class. So it will print this user is the class name, and we have used two parameters name, that is name. Here in the object u1, it holds the value of John for the parameter name and then 29 for the parameter age. So this toString method helps to identify the parameters and its values declared in the class section irrespective of the declaration or definition given in the body of the class. So it will consider only the declaration given in the first statement. So next comes copy. Here it is again a data class. So again we have created an object for the class with the parameter John and 29 given as name and age. So here we have created another object u2, and we are sending the parameter name only to the object u2, and we ask the compiler to get the remaining value from the first object created, that is u1 created for that particular class. Here copy is the function, method is used to get the values from the previously created classes, and if we are specifying the values, or else we can have here, instead of giving as name, we can take it as age .35 here. So it will consider as name as same, and here I want to print it as age. So here name as John is common for both the objects, and I have specified only the second parameter to be modified, that is 35. So this copy method gets the value of name from the object u1 created for the class user already. So, and if it didn't specify any of the value, means it will derive both the values from the previously created object. So this will be the working principle of copy method. So next comes, yeah, hash code. With the help of data class, how we are extracting the hash code for the particular object created. Yeah, here is the one I told already. Like I had passed the both the values, I mean both the parameters of the object u1 to u2. In the third one, I have given the name Amanda only. So we can change it as a Kotlin also. We can change it as Kotlin. So what happens if this change means here hash code, the hash code of the object u1 and u2 are same because the u2 is the copy of u1, and the hash code of u1 and u3 will be different because I have changed the name as Kotlin. Here the name is John, but I have given as Kotlin here for the object u3. Here these statements are used to check whether the objects are equal. Like we are similarly checking the string variables for whether these string are equals to one another, not with the help of equals operator. Here we are checking the objects with one another and verify that these are equal to each other or not. So on executing, yeah, the hash code for u1 and u2 will be same because we are passing the same parameter for both the objects u1 and u2, and u3 is different because I had given a name called Kotlin, right? Okay, next one. So next one, restructuring. So till now we had seen that the class user with the name and age by default. Here I am destructuring the class data class by adding another parameter gender of the type string. So what happens if it execute? So I want to add, or I want to restructure, or we can have destructuring. Destructuring means we want to add some of the additional features or additional parameters to the existing class. We can do it with the help of the destructuring value. So here we have passed 3 parameters and we have to reinitiate the type to u1 so that we can easily destructure the data. Next one, component function. As I said earlier, we have included one parameter called gender. So if an object can be created for a class means it holds the value for the parameters given in the declaration section. So we can easily extract those values of the components with the help of function component, and we have to specify the number in which the parameter is located. Like 1 indicates the name, and 2 indicates the age, and then 3 indicates the gender. So it will easily split up the values of the object created for a class with the help of the component n function. This component n function helps to identify the parameters and its values given for the object of a class. So next one, companion object. So here, this is a simple one, a class person. Inside that we had I had declared a method called call me, and I have created an object for this particular class person P1, and using the P1 I have called the method declared inside that person class. So this is similar. So what happened in this case, if I want to access the same call me method without creating an object for this class person. So what happened if I want to remove this, or I want to access the call me without this object? So here I have created companion object test inside the class person in order to access the method call me without creating the object for the class. So if I am executing means it will execute, because I had explicitly given in the class itself, like this will be the companion object used for calling the entire attributes and methods declared inside the class. So we can access the attributes and methods, I mean variables and methods declared inside the class without the use of objects. So we can specify the companion object here itself. We can easily access the variables and methods declared inside the class. So next one, extension function. So extension function plays a major role in major role in adding some of the additional features to the existing one. Here comes, yeah. So here function string dot remove first last character of string. Here this was substring is 1, comma this dot length -1. So here this helps to remove the first and last one. So my string dot, if I want to execute the above said method for the my string variable means, so the result will be stored in the result. So this will be the my input value, that is string, given to the method remove first last character. So after executing, the result will be hello everyone by removing the first and last. So we can add our customized code to the existing one with the help of the extension object. So that's it. Thank you. If you have any doubt, kindly ask me. Hello. Shall I stop sharing?
Ganesh sir?
Yes,
Please
madam.
come on. Sir, let us check with the participants. Suppose they are
Okay.
having any doubt, we can clear. Participants, do you have any questions?
How can middle character be given? So I have received a question from Pramu Mahalingam. How can I remove the middle char in the given string? Any direct method is there? So here we can write our own code for executing that result. So here, if you want to remove a middle one, means we want to write the code, and we are add our code to the existing one so that we can extend the functionality. If you have any queries, kindly post it in the chat window.
Participants, if there is any query? So Ganesh Kumar sir, let us end this session. On
Okay,
behalf
madam.
of our department and Vellore College of Engineering and Technology, I extend my thank you, sir. Thank you so much for
Okay.
your wonderful session.
Okay, madam. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I thank our beloved HOD sir, Dr. V.K. Manohara Sundaram sir, and the coordinator of this FDB, Dr. S. Viveka madam. So thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you. Thank you, one and all.
Participants, let us have the next session, error handling in Kotlin at 2 p.m. The attendance link will be posted in the next sessions. Okay, so your attendance in ACT Atal portal will be uploaded in this evening, sir. So kindly be patient. So if you want to ask any query regarding these sessions, so let us meet at 2 p.m. sir. Thank you. Thank you, participants.